Okay, I'm going to use my Firefox browser to go to the Raspberry Pi page to get the software for the microSD card, the operating system. So in my browser, I'll go up to Raspberry Pi and it finds raspberrypi.com. And then I go to software and I'm going to look for the area that says install Raspberry Pi OS using Raspberry Pi Imager, download for Windows. So that's what I select. It downloaded it. I could open it up here, but just to show where it is, I'm going to go into my download folder, take the copy I just downloaded, the fifth one today, and I'm going to, yes, let it make changes to my PC. I'm going to install the imager. I'm going to run the imager. This time it opened it up. Sometimes it actually opens it, but the window doesn't pop up. In that case, look at your taskbar and look for a window that didn't open fully and let it open. I'm going to choose the Raspberry Pi 4 as the device. I'm going to choose the OS, and this is the crucial part. I'm looking for Bullseye, which is an older operating system that everything was written, the instructions were all written assuming it was Bullseye because that was the operating system at the time. So I'm going to actually go to Raspberry Pi OS Other. I'm not going to load anything that says Bullseye. I'm looking for something other than Bullseye. So Raspberry Pi Other. And in here, you need to look for the words, I meant to say something other than bookworm. You don't want bookworm, I want Bullseye. So now I'm in here and I'm looking for Bullseye. Notice how these things say bookworm, but eventually you get to the Bullseye operating system. I'm looking for 64-bit full, a port of Debian Bullseye with security updates, desktop environment, and recommended applications. So that's the one I want, Bullseye, 64-bit desktop. I'm going to click on that. I'm going to tell it where to install that, and that is onto this SD card, 16 gigabyte SD card. Click Next. It says, would you like to apply OS customization settings? I'm going to go into edit those settings and show you what this is. Do I want to configure a set of username and password? I'm going to choose that. And I'm going to not use that. I'm going to use lowercase pi. And the password, I'm going to use the old default password for Raspberry Pis, which was raspberry. R-A-S-P-B-E-R-R-Y. Configure the wireless LAN? Yes, our home's wireless LAN is called Living Room, and it already has the password because I've done this card before, but that is where you would put in the password of your wireless LAN. I'm not going to show it to you. It is US, and our time zone is America, Chicago. Keyboard is a US keyboard. I'm going to save this. Now that I've saved it, do I want to apply those settings? Yes. Then it says all existing data on the card will be erased. Are you sure you want to continue? Yes. I had an issue earlier where it said it couldn't format this SD card, but those were Windows messages. And after I acknowledged those messages, it came back to this screen and it was writing and it was formatting. So bear that in mind. You want to be at this point where it's actually writing the SD card. I know this will work, so I'm going to end this portion of the install here. We'll move on to the taking the card out of the laptop, putting it into the Raspberry Pi, and booting it up there. But I'd also like to add that I will be using the installation instructions that Mike Kingsley wrote for the Raspberry Pi installation. And those are at the location I don't know the web page, but I always search for it by using download space Fruitbox space v2, and then it will pull up his page, and on that page are the installation instructions that you want to find the 64-bit installation instructions for a Pi4. And when you follow those, that's what I'll be doing on the actual Fruitbox installation coming up here. So I'm going to cut out here and go to that. Alexa, turn on the stereo. I have my Raspberry Pi on an Alexa plug, and I call it stereo. And I'm just going to let it boot up to wherever it wants to end up, which is the desktop. My cat is bothering me. It's just about ready. I suppose it's rebooting itself at this point, but just let it go. As you can see, it did eventually take off and run again. I figure it's better to just show this whole sequence than to cut through it. Might be reassuring. All right, I'm going to pause here and take care of my cat. I'll be right back. Well, I thought I was going to be able to take care of him. I'll be right back. Now, I use a wireless keyboard and a wireless mouse, but they're the kind that require a dongle. They're not Bluetooth. They're not Bluetooth, so they connect automatically when I power up the Raspberry Pi. So I'm going to click next here. And it thinks, even though I put in Chicago, it thinks I'm in the United Kingdom, so I'm going to change this and do United States. And language American English. Time zone, I'm going to do Chicago. I'm actually in Dallas. Press next. And I also have clicked use US keyboard. And create user. Even though I did it already, I don't know why, but it's asking me to, so I'll do it again. I'm going to make sure I use the lowercase username PI. Lowercase is very important. Password, I'm going to enter what used to be the default password again of Raspberry, R-A-S-P-B-E-R-R-Y, R-A-S-P-B-E-R-R-Y. Just to show you that's what I typed. Have to remember that, okay? Have to remember what your passwords. Press next to create your account. It gives you a warning. It's not that crucial. it's a jukebox. It's not connected to everything with my confidential financial information, so I'm going to let it select that. The screen does look correct, so I'm not doing anything on this screen. Clicking next. Select your Wi-Fi network. Again, I had put that in. I don't know why it didn't stick, but it's not important. It gives you opportunity to fix that. It does see my Wi-Fi network. So I'm selecting that, and then I hit next. And it's going to look for updates out on the web for the operating system. I'm going to let it. I don't expect it to find much, but you never know. And again, I'm just going to let it show you what it's doing so it doesn't surprise you if yours does the same thing or does something even a little different. I don't anticipate this taking very long. But I could be wrong. Oh, there it goes. Says the system is up to date, so I'm going to click OK and press restart so that the new settings will take effect. I'll do that. Notice I clicked on it. It didn't do it right away, but it will do it. So I'm not going to just keep clicking on it. I'm just going to let it go at its own pace. And there it goes. And I'm going to let the whole reboot happen again. That jukebox up at the top, that's just what I renamed the HDMI port on my 65-inch Vizio TV. And it should come up again to the desktop, this time fully to the desktop. And voila, we have a Raspberry Pi operating system. So going through Mike's excellent installation instructions, I am following the instructions for the 64-bit desktop version, and he says for a Raspberry Pi 4 version recommended. He says increase the GPU memory to at least 256 by going to Performance, Options, and GPU Memory. So I'm going to do that, and you get to that by going to the little Raspberry icon up at the top, which opens up a configuration menu. Scroll down to Preferences. On Preferences, there's Raspberry Pi Configuration. And what I'm looking for is GPU memory. And that's under Performance tab of this screen. See how it says GPU memory 76 megabytes? I'm going to increase that. He says to at least 256. Notice that it goes up in 6 at a time or so. There is no 256, there's a 252. Well, I go ahead and choose 260. Then I click OK. And now it has to reboot again. Yes. So now we get to the nitty-gritty, where we have to enter several command line commands. And I will say the most important things about anything on the command line in Linux is that you put spaces where there need to be spaces, and you capitalize things that need to be capitalized. In other words, type them exactly as shown on the installation instructions. One problem with installation instructions, though, is that they tend to use proportional fonts, so it's hard to tell a space sometimes. So let's just be careful, okay? Now, to get to the command line to install this for a 64-bit desktop, which is what we set up, he says from a command shell, type this long command. Well, command shell is gotten to by opening up a terminal, which is the little black box up on the menu bar. That's a terminal. Click on that. I clicked on it once, maybe nothing happened. I'll click on it twice. And it will open up a terminal. Goes faster next times. Oh, accidentally opened up 3. Okay, well, I'm going to close that one. I'm going to close that one. I'm going to go full screen on this one. Notice how small the print is. If I go up to the title of this window, or on the window itself, let's see, there's preferences, and there is display, and there is advanced, and let's see. Go back to display, default window size, that's not what I'm looking for, style, VGA, terminal font, that's it. See this terminal font where it says monospace regular 10? Well, 10's pretty small, so I'm going to go up to, let's see what 30 looks like, okay? And when I hit select and click OK, now I have a nice big Raspberry Pi command line. So I'm going to type in this rather long command, which is wget, W-G-E-T, all lowercase, space, HTTPS $, oops, $, colon, / github, github.com /chundermike RPI dash Fruitbox dash V2 / raw / main / install _ Fruitbox _ Pi4. So let me look at that. wget HTTPS $wget HTTPS $, colon / github.com chunder. I have a typo on chunder Mike, so I need to go up and fix that. I can use the cursor keys to go back to that and fix it. Chunder Mike, I'm going to go to the end just to have a known condition here again. Chunder Mike / RPI-Fruitbox RPI-Fruitbox-V2 / raw / main / install _ Fruitbox _ Pi4. I'm going to hit enter. Whoops, what happened there? I think I hit a fat fingered a key. So I'm going to get rid of that little thing there. I'm going to use the up arrow key from the keyboard to retype the last long line. And so that still looks good to me. wget https / github under mic rpi fruitbox. So now I'm going to hit enter a little more carefully. Scheme missing. wget. I'm going to use the up arrow key again. wget https space https. It's not HTTPS, it's just HTTP. And I'm glad I'm doing it wrong here so that we have a chance to see it together. So I'm going to get rid of the S. I'm going to go back to the end of this long command, and this time it should work. Let's see. HTTP $. Jeez. I'm making all the mistakes that people make, okay? It's not HTTP $. There's no $sign at all in there. It's just HTTPS. So I'm going to go back, change that $sign to an S. And I'm going to leave it like this because this shows how frustrating it can be. wget https github.com. So, wanted to take a bet? It'll work. So voila, it actually got something from Mike's site. Okay, then it says from a command shell. We're in a command shell. It says from a command shell, type this permissions line, which is chmod space plus x space / install _fruitbox _Pi4. And I'm looking at this to make sure it's right, and that looks right to me this time. This sets permissions for all the file operating system to access these files correctly. One other thing I want to point out, notice that the username at the very front of this line in green is PI lowercase. Again, how important that is. Hit enter. All it did was change permissions, so there's nothing expected as a response. Then it says, from a command shell, type this command, which actually installs Fruitbox, which is / install _Fruitbox _Pi4, which is / install _Fruitbox _Pi4. And I'm hitting enter. And it's installing Fruitbox. Cool, huh? I really apologize for all those fat finger typos, but like I say, mistakes on the command line can just drive you crazy. So I'm leaving them in. Someone that thoroughly understands Linux or Unix probably has no problem doing these commands, but the rest of us that are used to Windows for the past 20 years, different story. I don't know if you can hear my stomach growling. it looked like it was locked up, but again, things just take a while sometimes. Give it a chance to do what it's supposed to do. And I'm leaving these things in rather than pausing it so that you can see that you're not stuck. I have Fios internet, so it's high speed, but this is how long it's taking. Let's rock. That's what you want to see. That means Fruitbox has been fully installed. And then I'm scrolling down in his installation instructions on the Windows, on the web page I have open in Firefox on my PC. It doesn't really say here, but the commands to start Fruitbox are as follows. We want to change to, I'm just going to do an ls to show what directory we're in here. We are in the Pi, or we're in the user/Pi directory. And you notice in blue above install Fruitbox, there's an entry for Fruitbox. That is actually the Fruitbox directory. So I'm going to do cd for change directory, Fruitbox. And if I do an ls again to look at what is in this directory, you'll see that it's different. So we're at the right point to start Fruitbox, and I'm going to start it by typing the following command, /Fruitbox. And hit enter. Give it a second. And you'll see the spinning logo. Goes faster next time. This is just still building the program more or less. I'm going to let it go a little bit longer. I don't recall that doing this long before, but we'll see. Oh, there we go. Voila. No songs found. All right, I'm going to, before I get any further, I'm going to do one other thing here. And that is up at the top. Well, I can't do anything in this screen until I hit OK, which is going to make the program close. But that's okay, because the first time through it, it tries to build the database and it sets up some files, and this happens every time. So you hit OK or enter. And when I run it again, it will give the same message. So I'm not even going to run it again yet. I'm going to configure it to find my music files. My music files are on a USB thumb drive placed into a USB port on the Raspberry Pi. So I'm going to go open File Manager, which is much like File Manager in Windows, with one exception, and I'll show you that. Again, we have a small stuff, but I'm going to leave it small here. Hopefully you'll be able to see it. Well, let me try this. Nothing there that you can do. It's under, go up to the top menu, nothing you can do there. Taskbar settings. Panel setting, panel appearance. Panel appearance, let's try that. And size, large, position, top, color, system, Defaults. For larger screens, I've got a large screen, I'm going to set the defaults here. And notice I have bigger lettering here. So I'll check OK there. I'm going into the Fruitbox directory. I am in home/pi, going into the Fruitbox directory, going into fruitbox.ini, which is the main configuration file for Fruitbox. And now we're so small, but let me make this full size. And here I can do right mouse click, nothing there. Tools, configuration files, no. Color chooser, word tag. View, change font. And I'm going to go to at least let's go to a 25 here. Select. Voila, much more readable. See this music path right in the beginning of the directory, right in the beginning of the configuration file. I'm going to change it. I'm going to change this relative location to instead be /media/pi. And that will load in all MP3s below the upper level of the USB cards. So that should work. Then I'm going to click close. I'm going to save it. Then the other thing I wanted to do was up at the top here, I want to hide the taskbar. So I'm going to go to taskbar settings and let's see. Icon show flat buttons, only show window, use mouse wheel, flash button, combine, disable enlargement, spacing. I'll come back to that. Take one more look. Panel settings. Here we go, advanced, I believe. Minimize the panel when not in use. That is the taskbar. And size when minimized, we want to go down to 0. And that will completely minimize the taskbar when you're not using it. So notice there's no taskbar unless I go up to the top, then it reappears. All right, we're ready to rock. So I could close this, I don't really have to. I'm going to go back to my command window that I had open. Going to run Fruitbox again. By typing the command, since I'm in the right directory, I'm just going to type ./Fruitbox. Like I said, it goes faster the next time. And the reason it's going fast here is because the actual Fruitbox entries that relate to the database are actually kept on the music source location. Every directory on there has a fruitbox.db file. If that file exists, it's fine, it uses it. If that file doesn't exist and you're just using your library for the first time, it has to build that file. So it would go through and build the file, which can take quite a while on a large collection. I have a really large collection, about 26,000 songs from a lifetime of listening to music and buying records. And see, it's up and running. And just to prove it, I'm going to select a song. Let's try True Love Waves by Buddy Holly. Notice that I don't have the artist. I don't know why that is, but there's a reason. But I'm going to select True Love Waves, C5. Turn it up. Turn the TV up. Pause, let me just delete it. I'm going to show you one more thing that will come in handy. I'm going to go back into that configuration file. I'm going to go into fruitbox.ini. And I know some of the skin names, so I'm going to put in a skin name that I know, which is classic. So if I hit return under skins and make a second entry that looks just like the one above and type file equals skins/classic/fruitbox.cfg, then I'll have the option to load in a second skin. And I can put as many entries in there as I want from the skins directory to access a couple or all of them if I wanted to. So I'm going to close this changed ini file and save it. Fruitbox.ini has been updated. I'm going to go up to the taskbar. Going to go back to the command line. I'm going to start Fruitbox again, and all I did there was use the up arrow key to recall the last command again. And I hit enter, and you'll notice when it starts this time you have an option that wasn't there before. I can load in the SBM100 emulation skin, or I can use the right arrow key and it will load in the classic emulation skin. So I'm going to hit select. Takes 30 or more seconds to read in my large database. Well, maybe less. And I like to use random on my title strips, but most of them are coming up as, on a fresh install, as alphabetical. That's why the blank artist was first. It was actually Buddy Holly, but it didn't show up because the MP3 tag, the tag on the MP3 is not correct. So checking skin, and we're back in that again. I'm going to scroll to the left, get to the end of my database, and let's just start, I don't know who this is. Well, let's do this ZZ Top A2. She loves my automobile. A2. Hit enter, because this one requires you press the select key. It certainly is not difficult to install it, but there's a potential for mistakes almost every step of the way. So I hope this helps. Hit escape and bye-bye.